Oh, hello there. I'm Mike Garrity. I'm here with Dr. Dustin Nelson, and welcome to Brose. Just a couple of bros drinking rosé and talking fitness. We got a special treat for you today. This is Brose Live, which means we're just going. We're just rocking and rolling, real time here, folks. So if we mess up, you mess up with us. Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, look at this. You're just getting right into it.
So far, every wine I smell smells the same.
Well, you're smelling them properly at least. You look like you know what you're doing. What do you think there, Mike?
This tastes like when you have toothpaste in your mouth and you drink orange juice.
Did you just brush your teeth?
No.
Oh.
Although I did just wake up. Yeah, that's weird. I mean, I don't hate it. I don't drink because I want it to taste good.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of a funk to it, little sour.
I'm going to guess how much this cost.
Okay. What do you got?
So, probably be easier if I do per bottle. I'm going to say that this is a $30 bottle.
Yeah, you're pretty close.
Really?
On that one. Yeah.
And that's expensive for a
Yeah.
wine, right?
For this wine, yeah. Rosé, that's a solid $30. Yeah. Wow. Look at you. You know, you're learning.
Yeah.
We're gonna go out to
All
dinner
right.
yet.
I'm going to rate this one 5 thumbs.
5 thumbs.
Yeah, not because I like it, but because it's $30
Because
a
it's
bottle.
pricey. Well, that's not why we like wine, though. It's that's the beauty of it. Is it doesn't have to be something that's pricey to enjoy it. But do you like the flavor? You said it had a bit of a funk to you.
Yeah, it tastes like when you have something citrusy after brushing your teeth.
Yeah, little sour, a little sweet.
It feels like I just put a sweater on my tongue.
Well, do you like that feeling?
I don't dislike it. I like to get kicked in the mouth a little bit when I'm drinking.
Okay. Well, if you like getting kicked in the mouth, then this is a bottle for you. And I'll give this a 4.5.
4.5?
Yep.
Well, you know what that means. We're moving on. All right, folks, this is the part of the show, which incidentally these days is the whole show. Q&A. You ask the Q's, we give you the A's. That means answers.
Okay.
Dustin,
Good.
I'm ready to learn.
Okay.
Are you ready to learn? What do you think you could learn from me today?
That you like getting kicked in the mouth and feeling like you have a sweater on your tongue.
I'm already teaching. All right, Justin, first question. Once again, I'm going to point out I didn't write this one. It says, my girlfriend, not mine, my girlfriend keeps trying to get me to meditate, but I don't have the patience for it. But I could have written this question because I feel the same way.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips?
For your girlfriend or for let's unpack this.
Right. Well, no, not for the girlfriend. This is for the boyfriend. Let's just say this is for me because I have tried to meditate and I get so bored. I can't master it. So what is a tip to
Like he's saying, hey, my girlfriend's trying to get me to meditate. I don't have the patience for this. Give me some tips that actually can help me meditate. Like,
yeah, help me meditate for someone who doesn't have the time or the patience or being bored.
Okay. So one of the things, this now you just stepped in something that kind of bothers me. It irks me. It sticks in my craw, which is people saying I don't have time for this. You have time for it. You're choosing not to make time for it in place of other things. So,
but that does feel like kind of bullshit because everyone's just like, well, if you want to do it, you'll make time to do it.
Absolutely.
That's not always true.
That is true. That is true. If something's important enough, you'll absolutely.
No, I hate that.
You might, but what you're saying is, effectively in your life, you're governing. You're choosing between things or amongst things that are not worthy and unworthy, but all worthy. And trying to find the time to do that can be, difficult. So I understand the conundrum. But one of the things that is the biggest obstacles for people when they meditate is really just figuring out how to do it in a way that works for them in their life. So what I like to do is get people in a spot where we start to understand why they're going to meditate and where some of those benefits are. Because this isn't something where we have to wear silk robes and chant and try to reach that transcendental plane. We can just...
You can.
One can, perhaps, yeah, the bowls and the crystals and all that kind of stuff. But if you don't want to get that hokey with it, it's really just about oxygen exchange. And the general idea being, hey, if you meditate, maybe you're a little more calm, maybe you're a little more relaxed, a little more oxygen in your blood than carbon dioxide. And that's a benefit because it can calm us down. There's a lot of health benefits to that. and it can help us think more clearly. So there's a lot of benefits, but it doesn't take a long time to do that. You can do that in 2 minutes. And we have a 2-minute meditation that we'll teach people, which is you inhale through the nose 5 seconds. You hold that for 5 seconds. Put the tongue on the roof of your mouth right behind your teeth. And then, don't blow this at me, but blow out. Yeah. For 5 seconds. So 5 inhale, 5 hold, 5 exhale. It takes 15 seconds. We do that 8 times. It's 2 minutes.
That's it. Top to soup to nuts, bottom to butts. 2 minutes.
2 minutes. And what you've done is exhaled the carbon dioxide. You've brought in more oxygen, which has relaxing effects, mental clarity effects, calming
I feel
effects.
kind of relaxed just from the 2 that I did.
You know what's funny though is when you were growing up, did anybody just tell you like, okay, you're upset, take a deep breath?
Yeah.
Right?
Hi, Mom.
Hi. So those proverbial old wives were onto something with that. But yeah, just a 2-minute meditation.
You know
so
what
that's a
you're
tip.
like? You're like that magician.
No.
Oh, you don't like when I'm pointing
Yeah.
at you?
Do you know anyone who likes when you point at them?
Yeah, a lot of people have told me I'm really good at pointing.
Yes, you
Yeah.
are. You are quite good at it.
So,
Did you lose your train of thought?
yeah.
Maybe you need to meditate.
That was good. That was good. I was gonna say you are like that magician who puts on the mask and ruins everyone's magic tricks. Says this is actually why this works, but you do that with like old wives' tales and proverbs.
But why is that a bad thing?
I didn't say it was a bad thing.
Oh, you like the magicians who ruin the tricks?
Yeah.
No. Says a lot
I've
about
lost
you,
I've
Mike.
lost a lot less money since I figured out how that stuff works. Never play poker with a magician. Next question. My blood pressure. I said pressure like a defunct country. Prussia.
Like an Eastern Bloc, like a Prussia,
Yeah, that's.
former Soviet.
No one cares about what I think about that. Next question is, Dustin, my blood pressure is what the doctors call too high. Should I avoid salt now?
So I'm guessing this is okay. We're talking about blood pressure, which is a serious deal. Blood pressure blood pressure is directly correlated to your morbidity and mortality rates. So the higher your blood pressure goes by.
What's morbidity mean?
So
Fat?
it's basically talking about your life expectancy. So the higher your blood pressure goes above the normative range per bracket, the lower your life expectancy will go per bracket. So if you're slightly above normal, you might shorten it by 5 years. If you're moderately above, maybe 10. If you're really high, maybe 10 to 15. And those are correlational numbers, meaning, hey, based on the number of people that report with these types of numbers, this is what we see. So it is something that we want to take seriously. There are a number of things that we can do to try to impact and positively impact and reduce that blood pressure. Salt and things like sea salt can get a bad rap for that because you have a gradient of pressure in vessels in your blood, right? And it's how your body goes through like a pressure regulation system, right? We call our blood pressure, and that's done through salt and water, right? And so you have blood plasma and volume and dilation of vessel. And so one of the things that can happen is you can say, well, I have more salt, I'm holding more water, that increases my blood pressure. In reality, you'd have to consume a fair bit of salt to make that happen. And though it can negatively impact your blood pressure, it's probably not the root cause of elevated blood pressure in most cases. In most cases, you're going to run into things which might be hypertension from lack of nutrients like magnesium, potassium. You might run into electrolytes. You might see things which are vascular inflammation. You might see things which are lack of sleep, and then of course things like smoking and drinking and these types of things. So what I would look at if you want to impact it would be walking in the evening. I would look at our 2-minute meditations. I would look at things like exercise. I would look at things like improving your electrolytes, being better hydrated, before I would really impact what happens with the salt.
How would the 2-minute meditation help blood pressure?
Well, when you think about hypertension, right, it means excessive tension. okay? And so when we allow ourselves to respirate and breathe and improve our oxygen levels and get that calming and more laminar blood flow, it helps to relax our vessels or dilate our vessels. And so if you think about your blood vessels, they're tubes. They're like hoses, okay? And so if you have a certain amount of water cruising through that tube and you want to increase its pressure, what do? You shrink the tube. If you want to decrease the pressure, you expand the tube. You make the tube bigger, right? And so one way you can do that would be actually to physically relax the body.
You ever do that thing where you kink a hose when someone's trying to drink out of it and you let it go and it shoots all over them?
Yeah.
We should do that to a vampire.
Do you know any?
I mean, that's the thing is you never know. Yeah, but let me ask you this though. Even I don't have high blood pressure. I've never been told I have high blood pressure, but even me, doctors are always saying, like, less salt. I hear that all the time from doctors are saying that all the time.
Yeah, it's kind of it's an easy thing that's been demonized. It's kind of like butter, right? And, so this is how confusing fitness can be, right? Hey, don't eat butter, don't eat salt. And then you get the yahoos out there who are like, put a stick of butter in your coffee. That's the way to live. And which way is it? Honestly, probably neither. But sodium is definitely something in the diet, especially coming in packaged foods and in sweets and those types of things that you want to pay attention to. But if you're eating food that you're making or eating foods with sea salt and those types of things, it's probably not the cause.
Yeah, think about that, folks. It's not the salt that you're putting on your food or your morning margarita that's messing you up. It's the potato chips and the Arby's 5 for 5s.
I like the Arby's, but it's also the lack of breathing and the lack of activity and the lack of other choices there.
Yeah.
That we really have combated.
So you might not have to cut out the salt. You just might have to cut it out. Just cut it out. What you're doing, cut it out. Next question. How do I get all of my steps in every day if I can't use my legs? Hot shot. That's a good point because we talk a lot about walking. I'm not pointing. Is that a point to you?
Yeah.
All right.
You were doing it with a paper there too.
That is a very good point. You just pointed at me when you were talking about
how
pointing.
did that make you feel, Michael?
Didn't bother me at all because I'm not a weirdo. So we do talk a lot about people getting their steps in and like walking in the evening. You just said it at the last thing we were talking about, but we haven't really talked about people who might be in wheelchairs or on crutches because they got a cast or something.
Yeah. Wheelie chairs or crutches or any of those things. Yeah, absolutely. Really, really good question. Then the point to this is not to just use your legs. The point to this is to have steady movement that elevates the heart rate to between 100 and 130 beats per minute.
And so walking is an easy way to do that if you can.
Correct.
But if you can't.
If you can't, then perhaps you roll the wheelie chair at that rate. Another thing that works really well for people who might not have a complete facility within their legs and those types of things might be swimming. And so you can use your arms, you can swim, you could climb. But the problem with doing some of those things like climbing and lifting and that stuff is it might actually elevate your heart rate higher. So anything that any type of movement, whether it's in the chair or using crutches or in swimming and those types of things, that just keeps your heart rate there is what we're shooting.
So it's the heart rate we're looking for, not necessarily the action of walking.
Correct.
What's a good way to get your heart to around 130 BPM if you're just sitting in a chair, like you're on a couch?
I mean, you have to lift the couch.
No, you're sitting on the couch.
No, that's not. You can't do that.
You can't do it. What about with like one of those paddle ball things? You don't think you could do it with that?
I don't think you could do it with that.
What if I paid you to customize a sitting on a couch exercise for me, where I want to get my heart rate up, but I don't want to leave the couch?
It's like the premise of Wall-E.
I only read books, so I don't know. But if you can't use your legs for whatever reason, you can still get your low intensity, steady state cardio by getting your heart rate up to 130 with your other limbs.
No more than 130.
No more than 130.
Yeah. 100 to 120, max 130.
Max 130.
And because then it just jumps to higher intensity and it's not low intensity.
Jump in a pool and just pull yourself along with your hands.
A doggy paddle.
Yeah, doggy paddle. Front, top half only. All right, Dustin, I'm going to ask you another question, and this one is about nighttime.
Okay.
It was a real vampire-heavy show. Okay, I have a hard time relaxing at night. What's a fast, easy way to relax so that I can get some sleep?
Uh,
All right, so this is like a specific
Orgasm?
getting ready for sleep. Excuse me? This come again?
Did you mean to do that?
No.
Oh, well, that would do it too. Orgasms. I'm not being silly. I'm being honest. That's a really.
I feel like I wasn't done asking the question and
Oh.
you just yelled orgasms at me.
I didn't yell it at you. I responded to the question.
You're pointing
which
at
was,
me with 5 fingers right now. Just want to say.
Well,
I just want to put that out.
Okay.
Okay.
A really fast.
A fast way to relax is to come.
Orgasm. And it.
You called the come orgasm.
Mike, we're gonna get there. It's so that there's a big dopamine surge that happens with orgasm, and then there's from a chemical perspective, it's that satiety that comes through the prolactin release, and so it helps you lower a sex drive. It gives you that dopamine surge, so you feel rewarded, you feel like you've achieved, and it can help relax. So a lot of people, it has a great deal of health benefit in the evening.
So when you shoot your wad, not only do you feel accomplished, which makes you feel good emotionally, but chemicals are released that make you feel relaxed?
Correct. When you've...
I should have said that to you. That's
now,
your answer.
Here's the thing, though. It's not ejaculate dependent. It is neurotransmitter dependent, so it's not just about the ejaculation. It can be done without that. It can just be through...
He's talking about edging, folks.
Like I
It
feel
takes
like
a longer way to get to sleep, but it'll still work.
I feel
right?
like listen. This is what we need to do. This is fantastic that we get these questions from people. But I feel like one day we just need to sit down and hash out all the questions you have about things, because
we
there's
should
a
sit
lot
down and
going on in that brain of yours.
come together. All right, so but let's nail down this question real quick. It says to relax to get some sleep.
Yeah.
So
I'm not being funny, Mike.
Okay.
I'm being
All
serious.
right.
Look, there's other ways you can do this. You can achieve this, and this is not a replacement for sexual activity, but you can achieve some level of this by having what we consider to be sleep hygiene, or altering your physical environment. So, having your room temperature below 70 degrees. So ideally, people's body temperature should lower in the evening when they sleep. And this is what we do with melatonin. Melatonin levels actually lower our body temperature, and they raise again to wake us in the morning. So for people who benefit from melatonin, it's often because it drops their body temperature in the evening. So giving your body a head start by sleeping in a colder environment is technically more, it might be beneficial for our sleep quality.
All right, pop quiz. I'm in a cabin.
I like those.
I have no control over the temperature because it's whatever temperature it is outside is what it is inside.
Yeah.
I am too dirty, so I can't make myself orgasm, and I don't have access to melatonin. What can I do to relax in a scientific way?
We're going to circle back to that little dirt shame situation.
It's not a dirt shame thing.
But you said you were too dirty to orgasm.
I don't want to get mud on it. It's a regular hygiene thing, not a shame thing. I don't mind being dirty. I just
take the
sand
dusty
is
bits and dust them
friction.
off. Well, no, sand is different, but you can.
This is not the question I asked you, Dustin.
There you go. Well, you were the one that played the hypothetical pop quiz, which I like, by the way. And what I'll tell you is that if you're in a cabin and you're in the woods and it's cooler out and those types, that's fantastic. The cooler, the better. Okay. Now, whether or not you achieve détente with yourself and stroke your ancestral tendon is completely up to you. But you don't need that to happen. If you have a little bit of soft lighting, you get some mountain air, which has higher levels of oxygen, you get a little bit of relaxation, less ambient noise, no blue light. All of those things can create stimulation for you in the evening. Okay, and actually it can form, effectively induce levels of depression. And so when you remove all those things, you're talking about an environment that, your muddiness aside, is actually quite rich in your sleep hygiene.
Well, now I got a question about what you said, and this is a question about my life now.
Okay.
What What does blue light do to you that makes you not sleep?
It's
And blue light, we're talking like TV
Screen
screens,
stuff.
phone screens.
Yeah, and so the thing is that for a lot of people, they have other stimuli managed to the point where it doesn't really manifest for them as a negative sleep disruption. They can still get very high sleep scores, and they have strong HRVs and those types of things. For some people, however, though, it can actually create stimulus in the brain that has an effect on our serotonin and dopamine levels, and so it can actually make people less happy and create depression. And those things, it can also mimic daytime and throw off, like you hear this with people, they'll say, oh, you came out not knowing your days from your nights as kids, so it can throw you off in that capacity, but it's mostly a depressive issue with your neurotransmitters, so we want to minimize that.
All right, well, the answer to your first question is orgasms will make you sleepy, but I think the real nugget here is that blue lights can make you chemically depressed for some people.
They can promote that, yeah.
And imagine if you were watching a sad movie on your phone.
Yeah.
Double whammy.
No, but it's true. One of the things that we do for people, especially when we're trying to help offload the amount of stress they have, is get them to watch comedies, get them to laugh. Laughing stimulates your vagus nerve. And your vagus nerve is something that we look at in terms of our consistency of heart rate and health of our nervous system and our oxygen, because it supplies into the diaphragm. So it improves what we get from an oxygenation standpoint. Having a healthy vagal nerve flow, which is a cranial nerve, really important. And laughing and watching comedies can be a great way to do that. So you lower your body temperature, have a cool set of evening, lower lights, not just screen time, but lower your lights, play a little music, light music. If you happen to have some sexual activity, great. And, there's some good tips for your sleep.
Yeah. And you want to cut some corners, just, laugh your ass off while you're getting your rocks off. Do it in the snow or some shit. Next question. I don't really understand blood sugar. Me either, but that's what the card says. I don't really understand blood sugar, but I do know it's not good to spike it all the time when we're trying to lose weight. How do I keep it from spiking? I've also heard this. I don't understand it. I don't know why, but I do know I'm not supposed to let my blood sugar spike if I'm trying to lose weight.
Well, okay, so let's clear this up. It's less about the quote-unquote spiking. Every time you eat, your blood sugar is going to raise.
No matter what you eat?
What you eat probably impacts the level, but think of it like delivering mail. Okay, so you get a mailman that carries a bag and he's got a bunch of letters. Okay, so he's got a lot of letters or a little amount of letters, and that's kind of like your sugars. You either have a little amount or a lot of amount that get in based on what you're eating.
What's the mailman? Your blood?
The cells, blood cells. Okay. So now what happens is you need to they need to bind that sugar into a cell receptor, which is like your mailboxes. Okay. So if you want to get your mailman off the street with all of his letters, what you want to be able to do is really help him take the letters from the bag and put them right into the mailboxes, which means you have to have enough mailboxes for the letters, and you have to make sure that the mailboxes are open. And so when you think about how we can help this, you say, I'm going to eat foods that might minimize the amount of letters I carry, the amount of sugar I have in my blood.
That's the missing part of the analogy here. So this is like bad mail. You don't want this mail. This is junk mail.
Even if it's junk mail, you can still, even if you give me an idea of a junk mail, like a cookie. Cookies aren't bad because of the sugar necessarily. It's often
how many cookies you get in the mail?
Mail order.
Where am I? What is? I'm so lost right now.
So if you say, hey, I'm eating a cookie,
right?
Okay, and you're like, oh, that's bad. That's a bad carb. It's not so much about the carbs as it is the fat and the caloric loading, because that sugar is going to go into your cell in a very similar way to what rice would or any fruit. The thing is you have to be able to make sure that you have enough mailboxes to stick your mail into it. Okay.
Oh.
And so what your body does is it always accepts sugar to your brain. It will accept sugar to your fat cells at any point in time, but it will only accept sugar to your muscles once you've switched them on. You've turned them into accepting mode.
And where do we want the sugar to go?
We want them to go to the muscle. Okay, because that's where we make our energy. It's in our muscle cells that we make energy. So if someone doesn't have enough energy, number one answer, build more muscle. If somebody has excessive amounts of body fat and body fat deposits in the body, and you're saying, well, it's because we're overfeeding this calorically, we want to turn that nutrient into muscle. So we have to build more muscle. Okay, but muscles only accept sugar once they've been switched on, and we do that through exercise and activity.
I think I just figured out this analogy, folks. You eat some sugar, it'll go to your brain and your fat willy-nilly all the time, and we don't necessarily want that. We want it to go in the muscles.
We want it to go to the brain.
Well, we want it to go to the brain.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's good to have sugar in your brain. It makes it go.
Oh, well then just...
But we don't want it in the fat.
All right. We don't... Now I get it. We don't want the sugar to go into the fat, but it's going to go into the fat all the time unless we do something to stop it, to get it to go into the muscles, which is really good for us because it creates energy. And just exercise after you eat sugar or carbs to get it to go into the muscle. Before. See, this is... If you got to choose between us to train you, I'd go with him.
So, Mike, here's what you do. Okay, if you get a mail order cookie, you eat the cookie and you have it after your exercise. Okay, but anytime you eat, if you want to improve the likelihood that the muscles are going to accept it, you walk. And the reason is that you can't digest and assimilate it so fast. So by getting and walking and moving your body or moving your wheelie chair or your kickboard on swimming, that will switch on enough of the muscles where more of the sugar will go into the muscle.
That's the cheat code we were looking for, folks. Take a walk after every meal, and it'll help your blood sugar from spiking too high.
And that's the proverbial old wives saying you take your after meal constitutional, right?
See, this guy's.
That's what they did.
He's showing you how the sausage is made behind every magic trick here tonight.
Some sausage.
Yeah. Our producer Kenneth says a constitutional is a poop.
It's a morning, of ablution. Am I wrong? We need to get
ablution's
a fact check
like
on
cleaning, like cleansing yourself, right?
Oh,
So poop is part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
energy's made in the muscle.
Yeah, your muscles, your energy is created. Your mitochondrial biogenesis occurs in red blood cells, which are muscle cells. So for people who don't have enough energy, for people who are not operating at optimum capacity, one of the first things you want to look at is to say, how do we, or even they're gaining body fat rapidly, even though they're not eating very much. The answer typically, first move is typically sort their digestion so that they can absorb the nutrients, and then it's to, put them under resistance training so they can build some more muscle.
that's another cheat code. Just put on some muscle, and it will solve literally every problem you have in your life. All you got to do is get buff, and people will treat you better.
Don't tell people that. No.
Maybe I'm misunderstanding here.
It's a good place to
That
start.
was a joke, folks. The truth is, if you're low on energy, sort your digestion to get some more nutrients in there, and building muscle could possibly help with that. Probably will help with that,
Probably
actually.
will.
All right?
Yep.
Are some people naturally born with more sugar receptors?
Yeah. You can. Some
Mike,
people.
can you repeat that question since I'm not Mike?
Oh, yeah.
Hold on.
So we got another hot pop quiz from our producer off camera here. He wants to know if certain people are born with more sugar recepting capabilities in their cells than other people. Is that what you asked?
Yes, the insulin sensitivity through cell receptors does seem to have some level of correlation with genetics, and that certain people perhaps have more cell receptors, insulin cell receptors. Certain people may produce more insulin. This is what we see with type 2 diabetics. Or type 1 diabetics. They might not produce as much insulin as other people. Other people, can damage them through lifestyle and those types of things. But yeah, your genetic coding, the way you come out, can affect your insulin, which binds with your sugars and brings them to the cell, which is important. You can have more or less insulin cell receptor, and then you also have people who through their lifestyle, either train and have more muscle, and so they create more cell receptors and they don't eat as much sugar. So all those things are factors for people, but what you need to be able to do for yourself is have a general idea of what you're born with, and then figure out how you can maximize that.
Another pop quiz, hot shot. Does exercising and building muscle benefit people with type 2 diabetes? A, yes. B, no. Or C, that's too complicated to answer with a single yes or no.
A, yes.
Hey! All you got to do is give him some tight guidelines, folks, and he'll get right to the answer. And that's what we call a full episode of Brosé. Thank you so much for for stopping by. I almost said stinging by, but if you sting me, you won't hear thank you. Do you have anything more eloquent to say?
I got a lot of notes in my pad for us to unpack later, buddy, so I'm looking forward to that.
Cheers.
Cheers.
He says things that make me think, and I'm just a maniac at him. Not a fair relationship.
I'm still trying to understand why you had mud on your hands in the cabin.
Oh, I was making castles. Mud castles.